develop project charter. Okay, so what do I use as inputs to develop the project charter? Not all of them, just we're going to talk about key ones here, okay? So what is the key inputs for develop project charter? Two things. We need to know the what and the why. What gives me the what? Statement of work, right? So SOW. And then what document is going to give me the why?
Business case.
The business case, right? All right, so that's my input. What am I doing here? I am using expert judgment to simply take these two documents and create a very detailed, or not a big detail, but a very high level document. And what's that document called that starts the project? The project charter, right? The project charter. Okay, and so that charter contains a bunch of high level information. So I get another. What kind of high level information is in the charter? Right, so I've got high level scope. Oops, I don't know why I did that. High level scope. What else? Right, high level schedule, like the milestones. So I'm going to write SKED for SKED. What else? Cost. High level cost. Anything else? All right, constraints, assumptions, risk, a lot of things. So I just want to make a list of some of the major things that we're going to have. Okay, so the project charter, once I get the charter created, that's our starting point for the project. But since it's high level, I need to plan everything. I need to plan it in detail. So I'm going to create a project management plan, and a charter is going to be the key input there for a planning process called develop PM plan. Okay, so what are we doing during develop PM plan? We're creating how many components?
16.
Right, there's 16 components. I'm going to take that chart over there. So I'm going to create a project management plan that has 16 components to it. Right, so all 16 of those come from where? Where do those come from? Where do those 16 components come from? Outputs from other processes, right? Outputs from other processes. So just remember that. So that's really an input up here. I'll go ahead and write it up here. So in addition to the PM plan, I've got another input called outputs from other processes. So I created the project management plan, and once I've got it all put together, I can execute it. So I'm going to use Brown for executing. So what's the name of the process where we execute the project management plan? Okay, executing is the process group. What's the name of the process?
Direct to manage.
Direct to manage project work.
Yeah.
So the project management plan is going to be an input to direct and manage project work. What else was an input to direct and manage project work?
Approved change request.
That's right, approved change request. So I'm just going to write ACR, approved change request, because when a change request gets approved, I need to implement it into the work. So approved change requests are an input, and that brown and black looks the same color back here, doesn't it? But they are different. So what's the output of direct and managed project work? It's two things. Deliverables, right? So deliverables is one of them. Okay, and work performance data, and change requests is an output too, but I'm most concerned about work performance data and deliverables here. Okay, so once I get to this point, what do I do with that work performance data? Well, I need to analyze it, right? I need to analyze it and turn it into information. So all this work performance data, I'm going to draw it kind of small here. But all this work performance data goes to control processes. Control processes. And what do I do with it in those control processes? What happens to that work performance data?
Reports,
No, not reports yet.
information.
Right, I analyze and I turn it
Oh.
into information, which
Looking at the
means
wrong one.
that it is some sort of,
Dated
added
information.
detail. So it's gonna become work performance information. All right, now what do I do with that work performance information?
Monitor and control project work.
That's correct. I'm gonna send that to a process called monitor and control project work.
Marlon's head.
Okay, and what do we do with the work performance information there? What does it turn into?
Work performance report.
There you go. So it turns into work performance report. Very good. And what are the two things that I use work performance reports for?
Trend analysis.
Very good. So trend analysis,
Stakeholder awareness.
very good. And stakeholder SH awareness. So that's where I'm going to stop with that. That's going to go to several different knowledge areas. It's going to go to quality. It's going to go to communications, stakeholder management. All right, so that's the flow there of our work performance reporting. So let's go back down here and connect the dots with deliverables. Deliverables are going to go to another knowledge area. So we're going to jump out of integration management here, and we're going to go to another knowledge area. Deliverable items, and I'll draw a little dot here to create a connector. And so we can just use the whole board. Okay, so deliverables are going to be an input to another monitoring and controlling process that's not in integration management. And it's in quality. And it's called control quality. So we didn't talk about this during integration management, but putting it on a flow chart is going to help you connect the dots on what actually happens on a project here. So during control quality, I'm going to look at every deliverable item, and I'm going to inspect it. So that's going to be the major tool that I use here. And as I inspect it, I'm going to inspect it for something called correctness. So inspecting for correctness means that the deliverable item I created meets the quality metrics. I was going blank there. Meets the quality metrics. Okay, so I'm making sure it meets all the quality metrics that I've decided, and I know this is exactly what we should have created. So the output of control quality is no longer called deliverables. Those deliverables turn into something called verified deliverables. Very important, because terminology, as I've already talked about, is very important on the P&P exam. So you need to know that deliverables is an input to control quality, but once we inspect them and make sure they are correct, they are now called verified deliverables. Okay, so those verified deliverables are going to be an input to yet another knowledge area, scope, but a monitoring and controlling process. And that monitoring and controlling process is going to be called validate scope. So validate scope is also about inspecting the deliverables, but this time the inspection is not going to be done by my internal team. So I'll have to put this right here. This is internal. This is an internal quality inspector, someone who's an expert and knows. And this over here is external, or we'll put customer. So you can kind of understand that, hey, at this point, our customer is going to inspect the deliverable. And what they're inspecting it for, they're not a technical expert. They don't know what the electrical wiring code in the wall is, right? If I'm building a building. They can't come in and say, okay, the electrical wiring is in fact up to code, for all the various parts of the project. But what they can do is they can walk through the building and say, hey, this looks great, man. We're ready to move in here. So what are they inspecting for? They're inspecting for completeness. Does the deliverable item completely satisfy my need? So that's what we're doing during validate scope. So this is gonna be a customer, that's an internal inspector. So if the input is verified deliverables, I know the output's gotta have a different name. And so at this point, the deliverable now becomes what we call an accepted deliverable. So deliverables are created during directly managed project work. They're inspected for quality here. They become a verified deliverable, which is an input to letting the customer see it during validate scope. And now they become an accepted deliverable. All right, bam. Now, do you remember the charts up there? What process that I'm about to draw in red uses accepted deliverables as an input?
Close.
Right. Close project or phase. All right, so deliverables are not accepted during closed project or phase, are they? So if you see that question on the test, the answer would be deliverables are accepted by the customer during validate scope. Closing is not about acceptance of deliverables, it's about transfer of ownership of that deliverable. So the output of closed project or phase is a transition of ownership, and the official way it's phrased is final product, service, or result transition. So I'm transitioning ownership to the appropriate stakeholder. So right here I'm going to put change of ownership is what's happening there. So the project manager no longer owns this thing. Now it's owned by the customer, whoever's going to end up using it. Okay, so what we've done here is we talked about everything in integration management except for one process, which is perform integrated change control. So perform integrated change control, I'm going to draw it right here. And I'm just going to call it PICC, perform integrated change control, PICC. So there's a lot of inputs to perform integrated change control, but the main thing is change requests. And change requests come from a lot of places, but primarily from control processes. So that's why I'm going to put that there. And we'll also do it here. Change requests can come from direct and managed project work. All right, so what do I do when I'm considering change requests? Well, I decide whether I'm going to approve them or not. So the outputs of perform integrated change control would be right, ACR, approved change request. And what else? The change log, that's right. So those are two things we're gonna create there. And notice that approved change request right here, I'm doing a color here that you can see it. Approved change requests are implemented during direct and managed project work. So there's a connection of the dots between perform integrated change control. Every change request gets approved is then implemented through direct and managed project work. Okay, so this is, I think I've got them all. I got all the integration processes up there. We've got initiating, planning, executing, our monitoring, controlling, our closing, and I've included quality process and a scope process because they're interconnected there in the flow of deliverable items. All right, so how's that? Does that help make any sense of what we just talked about and connect the dots for you? Okay, good. So you can take a picture of this. Looks like, am I being videotaped there?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So that's cool. So you can take a picture of this if you want, because these don't exist anywhere. We're going to create flow charts like these and put them in the student portal for each knowledge area. But right now, we've just got them drawn on the board. So if you want to take a picture of them, you certainly can. And then that will help you, remember the flow. So, bless you. So I'm going to do this for every knowledge area, preferably before I teach the slides next time. I just forgot. And we'll have this up here. And as we talk about the slides, you can make the connection between the flow of what's supposed to be happening and the actual B slides that we're talking about.